guys, what's going on? Welcome to this week's DraftKings strategy for the John Deere Classic. Check out my other videos if you're interested in some of the key stats, some of the breakdowns in terms of the models. This video we're going to dedicate specifically to DraftKings strategy. So what are we thinking in terms of ownership? How should we construct our lineups? What am I personally doing in terms of my strategy for the week? Again, I think there's a lot of guys that can win here. I think certainly there's some win equity at the top of the board with Daniel Berger, but I think it might be a good week to, take some flyers, some guys that make you uncomfortable. So let's take a look at the ownership for this week. So basically, Russell Henley's projected to come in at the top in terms of ownership, followed by Berger. I actually think these guys might come in a little bit higher than 20%. This is what Fantasy National has in terms of their ownership projections. Another guy I think will be higher than what's projected, Seamus Power. And Alex Noren is seemingly always, after he has a hot week, people are generally all over him. I think ownership on him might be a little bit higher too. So again, just a projection. I don't think it, means a whole lot to have too many chalky guys in your player pool. If you're building one lineup, you probably don't want to use all of these guys, right? But if you are building, multiple lineups, if you're doing a single entry, you still want to get some exposure to some guys down the board. You want to make sure your total lineup ownership is probably not overextended, right? You don't want too many of these guys or you're not going to differentiate yourself, especially in large field tournaments. So again, no surprise that these are the top guys on the board. They rate out fairly well in the stat model. For me personally, I'm going to be fading Hank Lebioda this week. I just feel like now's the time to jump ship. He's pretty inconsistent. He can certainly play well in this field, but personally, I'm going to be jumping off. The price is fine. Stats rate out well. You got to be different somewhere. So taking a stand on Hank Lebioda. Also going to be taking a stand on Alex Noren as well. There's some other guys. Zach Johnson has immaculate course history here. I think he's won here a couple times. So he's going to be pretty popular. Again, nothing against him. I'm just not sure that he can, I guess he could play well, but I'm going to be taking a pass this week. I also decided to fade Sanjay. I'm also going to fade Siwoo Kim. These are guys that, are probably going to be higher than what's projected here. And again, we talked about this before. I think there's some risk of them looking ahead to the Olympics, just given how much pressure's on them to medal, to avoid their military service time. I could totally see a scenario where, they're coming out a little bit flat and just kind of take themselves out of it. So not necessarily withdraw, but, just kind of disengage from the tournament. So that's how I'm going to be rolling. I'm going to be taking some shots here at the top. I'm going to be taking some, again, not everybody, there's going to be very few lineups where I have all of these guys. I'm not even sure I could make lineups with all of these guys, but you'll see in a second. I'm going to try and curb the total lineup ownership just to make sure I differentiate somewhere. And then guys down the board that are a little bit lower owned. So Norlander's a guy we talked about. Harold Varner's a guy we talked about. Vaughn Taylor, I think we touched on for a second. These are all guys that rate out well in my stat model. Strokes gained approach, key proximity distances, everything looks good. Just comes down to making the putts. I may add a couple guys here yet, I'm not sure. So guys like Ryan Armour rating out fairly well in my model. I just not a big Ryan Armour fan. It's probably a bias on my end, so you should definitely use him. Matthew Neesmith is a guy that I like. Mito Pereira is a guy that's really interesting. So again, Corn Ferry Tour 3-event winner, automatic promotion of the PGA Tour. I don't think he's going to be as low owned as 4%, but I think he's a really interesting play this week, so I'm going to be loading up on him. Danny Lee is a guy that I like. He just keeps continuously rating out well in my stat model, but not performing, so maybe this is the week for him. Camilo Villegas is a guy I'm going to be using. Guy we didn't talk about is going to be super low owned. Doesn't rate out all that well in my stat model, but I feel like this could be a Benny On kind of course, so I also did bet an outright on him. I'm sure it's not going to hit, but to me in this field, I think Benny On should, in theory, be able to do well. Guy that historically can hit fairways. His approach numbers seem to be coming along. So he's going to end up in my player pool. Going to have, pretty significant overweight stance on him. And again, if you're going to try and take down a large field tournament, got to be different somewhere. You just have to have that reason to believe, right? And for me, I'm hoping this is a Benny On week. So then jumping over to my lineup optimizer. So again, I'm going to be max entering the small dollar tournament this week. One key thing that we don't talk about enough, I think we need to leave some salary on the table. So these types of events, generally speaking, there's going to be a core set of players, they're going to perform, but the optimal lineups seldom use all of their salary, right? So as a general rule of thumb, I never max it out. But this week I'm going to be leaving up to $800 on the table. So it's something that I think is, again, a way to differentiate. In my head, the optimal lineup, again, is never going to be a $50,000 full use of your salary. And in another way to differentiate, it's just to kind of go. I'm also keeping my core fairly tight. So I think I only have like 22 guys in my player pool. So for me, it's going to be a really, really good week or a really, really bad week in terms of fantasy. So again, playing with house money here a little bit, take some shots and go for it. The other thing that I'm doing, I think I mentioned this too. So here's my core. I'm going to make sure every single lineup has at least 3 of these guys on it. I'm also going to be making sure that I don't have too many of my higher owned plays in the same lineup. And also these crazy names. I don't want lineups chock full of, 3 of them, right? The odds are they're probably not all going to play well. So that's how I'm setting it up. And then in terms of my allocations, going to be going way overweight on Daniel Berger. I just feel like he's so much better than anybody else in this field. Even if he top 10s, right? You get the winner from somewhere else low owned down the board, you can have a nice week. I actually feel like that's probably how this is going to shake out. And if he ends up winning, then okay, I don't hit any of my outrights, but I have a shot at a decent win on DraftKings. So that's how I'm setting it up. I don't love any of Harmon, Henley, Streelman. Just getting a little bit of exposure because I don't want to be in a spot where like all of my other guys go crazy. And the key was just playing one of these guys. So just sprinkling in some of them. And then basically everywhere else, I'm just going to get, roughly a third of my lineups are going to have all of these kind of mid-range guys that I really like. So hopefully, we get the right combination of them. And at the end of the day, we hit one on DraftKings. I will say my fantasy play has not been super great of late. I've been doing a good job hitting winners. I've hit, I guess on average, like one a month. But I haven't really hit the right combination of guys in terms of fantasy. So, not a total loss or anything, but maybe we're due this week. So anyway, quick video. This is how I'm setting up my DraftKings lineups this week. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll put out another video update over the weekend after we have 2 rounds, look at some of the live data, see how we're positioned, see if there's anything that we might want to jump on, like a Cam Davis from last week. So more to come on that front. And as always, if you like the content, if you like the video, subscribe to my channel, give it a like. Feel free to reach out in the comments if you guys have any questions or want some thoughts on things. Happy to help grow the community, give my perspective. I certainly don't get it always right, but I like to think I get it right more often than not. So anyway, all of that to say, have a fantastic first couple of rounds of the event. Good luck if you're trailing any of this, or if you're not, good luck as well. And we will talk soon. We'll talk this weekend. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.